Uh, Hello students. So today we are going to, in continuation with the chapters, the last topic, we're going to complete the chapter today. That is oxidation, reduction, corrosion, and rancidity. Let us understand. Okay. So let us understand what is oxidation reaction and what is a reduction reaction. Okay. As you would see, by the word oxidation only, we can tell that oxidation means addition of oxygen, right? Okay. And okay, let us understand uh, with the help of an example. So we have here copper and oxygen, which is okay. Now we have balanced the chemical equation, right? So copper and oxygen, they're combining together to form copper oxide. So gaining of oxygen is known as oxidation. And also the removal of hydrogen is also known as oxidation. Oxidation is either removal of hydrogen or gaining of oxygen. That is oxidation, right? So here also you can see we have sodium plus oxygen, which is giving us sodium oxide. Okay, let us balance the chemical equation again, right? So here sodium is oxidized. It is gaining of oxygen, right? It is gaining oxygen to form Na2O, right? So this is oxidation where we are gaining oxygen or we are removing hydrogen, right? Okay. Next is reduction. Okay. So reduction is the reverse of oxidation. So reduction is removal of oxygen or addition of hydrogen. Let us see. If we have copper oxide and we react it with hydrogen, what are we getting? We are getting copper plus water. So we are removing oxygen from here, right? So we can say that copper is reduced to copper oxide is reduced to copper, but hydrogen over here is oxidized because hydrogen has gained oxygen. So oxidation of hydrogen is taking place and reduction of copper oxide is taking place. If I have zinc oxide, I react it with carbon, I get zinc plus carbon monoxide. So you all are right. Zinc is getting reduced. What is reduction? Removal of oxygen, right? So oxygen is being removed here. And so oxygen is added here. So this is oxidation and this is what? Yes, reduction. Okay. Now reduction and oxidation processes, they are used, in the purification of metals to get pure metals, right? In metallurgy, that we will also study in detail. So for now, please remember this, that oxidation is addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. Reduction is removal of oxygen or addition of hydrogen to the substances. Okay. Now, what are redox reactions? Redox reactions are, as you can see by the word itself, reduction and oxidation. Both are occurring simultaneously. Now, if both are happening simultaneously, in a simultaneous process, we call it a redox reaction, right? So, and here there is a perfect balance. One substance loses oxygen, the other substance gain oxygen, right? So let us understand, we have certain examples here. We have copper oxide plus hydrogen, which we already studied. So we have copper plus water. You can see copper is getting what? Yes, tell me. Yes, copper is getting reduced. We are losing an oxygen, right? Hydrogen is getting oxidized. So here oxidation and reduction is happening simultaneously. We call it a redox reaction. Next, we have manganese oxide plus 4HCl. So what are we getting? We are getting MnCl2 plus 2H2O plus Cl2. Okay, now you all tell me what is getting oxidized and what is getting reduced. If you would see here, MnO2 to MnCl2, yes, quickly tell me what is happening. Yes, reduction. Oxygen is removed. So if oxygen is removed, that is reduction, right? This is the opposite of oxidation. If you would see HCl, now here the hydrogen is gaining it is gaining oxygen, right? So HCl is oxidized, right? HCl is oxidized. So this is how you can also check if oxidation is happening or reduction is happening. Okay, let us move forward. What are the daily life effects of oxidation that we see in our surroundings? Okay, so the first one is, corrosion. So corrosion and rusting. So you must have seen that, after some time, the iron grills on the doors, right? They get rusted. You can see, a layer of rust on the top. Now, what is happening over there? Iron, in the presence of oxygen, moisture, right? It gets converted to iron oxide, you know. So, that is the daily life effect of oxidation you see in your day-to-day life. So, it is happening in the presence of oxygen, right? Our iron, it is gaining oxygen to form rust, right? So that is again an effect of oxidation we see in our daily life. Next is rancidity. So I am sure that you all must have come across this, in your lives. Okay, what is rancidity? Spoilage of food items. Again, so remember we studied about that apple. So if you cut an apple or any fruit, if you leave it outside, so you see that there is a brownish layer getting deposited on top of the fruit. That is rancidity, right? If you leave a chips packet open, right? You open a packet of chips and you leave it open, right? And then after some time, what do you see? You see that, your chips is not crispy now, right? And even your butter, if you keep it open, so it does not taste the same, right? The taste changes. Why is it that? It is because of rancidity, right? So if you keep your chips, namkeen, if you keep it out in the open without closing the container, so after some time, it becomes rancid. To avoid this rancidity, what do we do? You know, the industries, the chips packet. You know what is the gas inside the chips packet? That is nitrogen gas. They fill it with nitrogen gas. They can't fill it with oxygen, right? Otherwise, your chips will get spoiled. It will become rancid. So we fill it with the nitrogen gas so that your chips does not get spoiled and it stays fresh and crispy. Now, don't worry, this nitrogen won't harm you, right? Because it is unreactive. Okay, now this rancidity, it leads to unpleasant odor and the unpleasant taste, right? So this is how, the industries tackle the problem of rancidity. You can also store your chips and namkeen in airtight containers to avoid them, into coming contact with oxygen. How to prevent corrosion? Can you all tell me? Yes, you can paint, right? We can paint the windows, we can paint walls, right? And there are other techniques called galvanization, which we will study, when we connect to Urban Pro. Okay. Now, these are the examples of rust. That is iron. When it comes in contact with oxygen, it forms an oxide like Fe2O3.XH2O, right? So this depends, okay? So the X is a coefficient which depends upon the balancing of the equation, right? So again, this is the example of corrosion. Next is tarnishing of silver. So you must have seen your mother's silver jewelry, after some time it becomes black. That is also an example of, corrosion. Next is copper. Okay, so you must have seen the Statue of Liberty. Yes, what is the color of the Statue of Liberty? So you would say that it is light greenish in color, but it was like it was made up of copper. It was actually made up of copper, which was like the color of copper. That is, it was bright brown, kind of a brown in color, and due to continuous you know it was exposed to moisture and exposed to air, it got converted to copper carbonate, that is CuCO3, a pure copper structure. It got converted to copper carbonate, right? So that is how, oxidation, it affects our daily life, right? So you can just, what you can do, see those phenomena and ask questions that why is this color change happening, right? And just, find about that. So that would help you to develop your scientific ability. Also, these are some methods by which we can prevent rusting, that is painting, right? Also oiling, right? So if you do oiling, so you must have seen some people do oiling in their cycle chains. Why do they do oiling in the cycle chains? To prevent rusting, right? So that, your cycle also works smoothly, because oil is creating like a barrier. So your iron objects, they are not coming in contact with oxygen in the air, right? It creates kind of a barrier. Okay, so these are again the rancidity prevention strategies. That is, we add antioxidants to food, airtight storage, and nitrogen flushing, which I told you about, right? So replacing air with nitrogen, the air, it is replaced with nitrogen gas when your chips are packaged, right, to eliminate oxygen. Okay, so rancidity is the oxidation. Basically, what is happening? Your chips and the food, it has oil and fats, right? So the oil and fats, they get oxidized, that is what results to foul smell, right? And the bad taste. Okay, and it can also make your food harmful. Over the period of time, the food becomes harmful, so we should not eat that stale food, right? So common examples are, the stale potato chips, old fried food, and after some time the cooking oils also smell unpleasant because of the rancidity. Some nuts also turn rancid, because the nuts also have oils and fats inside them. So when they're kept in open over the period of time, gradually the nuts become rancid, right? And these are the strategies that are used to prevent the rancidity of food items. Okay, let us do a very quick recap. What is oxidation? Oxidation is gain of oxygen or losing of hydrogen, addition of oxygen or removal of hydrogen. What is reduction? Loss of oxygen or gain of hydrogen, right? This is the opposite. Okay, reduction and oxidation happening together, we call it redox reactions. Okay, what is corrosion? It is a gradual damage to the metals because of the oxygen in the air, right? By oxidation. Oxidation of metals is taking place, right? It is a practical application of oxidation. Corrosion is happening because of oxidation. Now, corrosion is like, it is very harmful because, it destroys so much amount of metal, which is quite expensive, right? Like ships and all, because of corrosion. So we face a lot of problems because of that. That's why the ships and, the large structures which are made up of metal, they go into annual repairing where they are painted. Galvanization is done. Basically, galvanization is coating with a layer of zinc. So if we would connect, we would study about that in detail, right? Okay, next is rancidity. Rancidity is again food spoilage because of the oil and fat that is present in the food. It gets oxidized, right? So these are the concepts that we studied today. And, it would also strengthen your understanding of chemistry in everyday life, right? And this is again, we're back with the quiz time. Okay. So just tell me if it is true or false. Addition of hydrogen, is it called oxidation or is it called reduction? Okay. You need to complete the chemical equation. You need to identify the question. What is the green coating that forms on copper articles over the period of time, right? Okay. Why are chips packets flushed with nitrogen? Why not air? You need to tell this. Okay. What type of reaction is this? Is it oxidation? Is it reduction? Is it redox? Okay, you need to answer this to check your level of understanding. Okay, next, thank you so much. Right, I hope you really like this topic. If you want to study more and you want personalized guidance and you want to ask certain doubts, you want to have exam focused learning, you can connect to me with Urban Pro, right? You can come and visit my profile. Okay, thank you so much. That's the end of our topic.